correct me if I'm wrong, but you had some involvement within the first UFC. And you were there, obviously, in the crowd, hanging out, watching it, seeing it, and get to see all the behind the scenes stuff. What was that first UFC like? Because I've read different people's accounts of it. And, from the fighter standpoint, they really didn't know what they were getting into. And then, after the very first fight, they're pulling teeth out of, Gerard Gordeau's leg. And they're like, oh my God. Like, I remember reading a story about Gold's Gym. They're like, they wanted to have this thing where they, maybe pushed for cross training, like with weights and stuff like that with martial artists, and these teeth come flying into their table. They're like, we're out, we're done, and like this thing that like nobody knew. What was that like for you to see that? And what was that experience like for you?
Well, I've seen a lot of challenge matches.
Yeah.
But because, first of all, so I invested into the first UFC.
Okay.
And then the first, I think 4, I went to, and as we're there, we had no idea what the hell was going to happen. All I know is that I saw some of the size of these guys, and I went like, whoa. I mean, we've seen some guys come in the academy, but we didn't see, I never saw like a sumo guy that was going to come in, and I went like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then to see Gerard Gordeau and see Ken Shamrock, it's like going, whoa, maybe we should have thought about this before, But the adrenaline for me personally, I brought a little snack with me and just some fruit to put under the seat, because it was going to be a 2-hour show, whatever it was. I couldn't touch it. My stomach was in knots because of, seeing these guys going, oh my God, man, I hope Hoist knows what he's doing. And it was quite incredible to see this. And then after it was all over, to go to the after party that night and see how nice everybody was.
Mm-hmm.
But, picking up, and then on UFC 2, my job was to go pick the guys up from the airport and bring them to the, back to the hotel. And I met a lot of the guys before the fights, and Remco Pardo, who's learning jiu-jitsu. And I went, holy shit, man, that guy is big.
Yeah.
So, I really didn't know what we were in for. I didn't know that jiu-jitsu, as much confidence that I had, I think this was going to be the major test for it, because there wasn't as big a guys that would come into the academy. And at this level, so it was the adrenaline never left. I would always like have that tense feeling before a fight. And maybe that's what kept me from fighting too, because I didn't like the way I felt.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just curious about the atmosphere.
Yeah.
What do you like? Are you seeing? Because there's obviously an audience. And I don't know how people found out about this, and I have more questions like how the fighters were chosen and how people actually found out about this. Kind of almost, it's kind of underground in a way. But like, what was the atmosphere like? Were people tense? Could you see nervousness? Could you sense it? Did the fighters seem like they were unsure, or did you see anything particular?
I don't think anybody knew what they were in for. Well, especially, when you think about the stand-up guys, I expected to see technique. But, you watch a lot of those guys, man, it's just like a brawl.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because there weren't really any rules. And, I expected to see some kind of a kata or, I didn't know what to expect because I didn't really do many stand-up arts. But just to see guys that would just come in and, you didn't see a whole lot of technique with those guys.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it's kind of hard to when you don't know what to expect, and the crowd didn't know what to expect because, when it went to the ground, people were booing because they wanted to see action up. They had no idea what was going on. So, it it was so different than it is now. No time limits. Go ahead.
You're fine. You can go ahead.
No. There was no time limits. It was not. It was, it was uncharted for everybody.
I think it's just such an interesting thing. Like thinking, I remember seeing the story about the boxer, Art Jimmerman.
Jimerson.
Yeah. So
the one glove.
The one glove. Because I think the way that it goes is Big John McCarthy kind of spooked him because he told him about like these guys, these Brazilians that grapple, and then so he was like, well, I'm going to need at least one hand to fight with.
Was he in the first one?
He was in the first one. He was Royce's first fight, and I remember it was so funny because you see him take him down, and you see Hickson's face. And as soon as he's down on top of him, Royce gets to mount immediately, and he just starts tapping. And you look at Hickson. Hickson's like, what is he doing? Right? Like, why is he tapping? And it was just because he was afraid, because like you said, nobody knew what was going to happen. And this guy was a boxer, and he was pretty good. He wasn't a bad boxer by any stretch. And he was like, I'm not getting broken for this thing that I'm doing. It was just it was such a neat experiment that got to, because I mean, that's for me, that was every martial artist is like, their dream was to see like which style was the best. I mean, even as a kid, when I did Taekwondo and my buddy did karate, we would go fight. We'd go watch Bloodsport, and then we'd go fight in the backyard. Like, let's see which one's the best. Everybody wanted to know. It's been around since like, the Bruce Lee movies and everything else. And then, Horian and all you guys got together and like we're going to show you style versus style, which one is better at actually finishing the fight.
Right.